The files are public. If you go to the Mikulski archive for space telescopes right now, you can download the raw data from the TESS satellite. It's a 28-hour time-lapse sequence taken between January 15th and January 19th. NASA expected to see a standard comet retreating into the dark, a dirty snowball, melting, shedding dust away from the sun. But when you play the video, you don't see a standard comet. You see a bright, glowing dot, and protruding from it, you see a tail, but it's pointing the wrong way. Standard physics, the kind taught in every university on Earth, says that solar wind pushes dust away from the sun. A comet's tail should always point outward. But look at the screen. 3I Atlas has a tail pointing directly at the sun. Astronomers call this an anti-tail. Now, to be fair to the skeptics, anti-tails do exist in nature. They are usually an optical illusion of projection effect. When Earth crosses the orbital plane of a comet, we sometimes see the wide, flat fan of heavy dust particles edge on. It looks like a spike pointing toward the sun, but it's really just a matter of perspective. That is the official explanation. It's comforting. It tells us that the universe is behaving normally, but there is a problem with that theory, the trajectory data. We know exactly where Earth is, and we know exactly where 3I Atlas is. We can model the viewing geometry in 3D. For the optical illusion theory to work, Earth would need to be perfectly aligned with the comet's orbital node. But in mid-January, Earth was 14 degrees off-plane. We weren't looking at it edge-on. We were looking at it from above. This means the spike pointing toward the sun isn't a trick of the light. It is a physical structure. 3I Atlas is physically ejecting material toward the star it is moving away from. In rocketry, we don't call that a tail. We call that braking thrust. This brings us to the second, and arguably more damning piece of evidence, the movement. Back in October 2025, during its closest approach, perihelion, 3I Atlas did what every comet does. It sped up. Gravity demands this. As you fall toward a massive body, you gain speed. But the tracking logs from NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, JPL, show that it didn't just speed up due to gravity. It had help. In orbital mechanics, we track an object's motion using the equation of motion. If gravity is the only force, the equation sums to 0. If there is a leftover number A deviation, we call it non-gravitational acceleration. For normal comets, this is caused by outgassing. The sun heats the ice turns to steam, and the jet of steam pushes the rock. It's the rocket effect. But outgassing is messy. It's chaotic. It causes the comet to tumble and wobble. 3I Atlas didn't tumble. The orbital arcs from November and December 2025 show a smooth, continuous curve. To generate the amount of thrust needed to push a 20-kilometer-wide object off its predicted gravitational course by 4 arcseconds, you would need massive, violent jets. You would need to vent nearly 100 tons of material per second. That kind of venting creates a massive cloud. It creates a coma that blocks out the stars behind it. But when amateur astronomers in the Virtual Telescope project imaged the core, they didn't see a massive cloud. They saw a sharp, pinpoint nucleus. So, we have a paradox. The object is accelerating like it has a massive engine. The object shows no signs of the exhaust, gas, or dust that a natural engine would produce. Harvard astrophysicist Avi Loeb, the man who first suggested Oumuamua was artificial, analyzed the high-contrast images from late 2025. He found something the automated algorithms missed: 3 distinct mini-jets. And they weren't random. They were separated by exactly 120 degrees. Nature does not build in equilateral triangles. Nature does not space its exhaust ports with geometric precision. Engineers do. If you were designing a probe to stabilize itself while passing a star, you would place your thrusters in a triad configuration to ensure perfect 3-axis control. And that is exactly what 3I Atlas looks like. If visual data is the what, then spectral data is the what is it made of. And this is where the story shifts from weird rock to manufactured object. In late January 2026, just weeks ago, the James Webb Space Telescope, JWST, turned its near-infrared spectrograph, NER-SPEC, toward the retreating object. Webb scans for absorption lines. Every element in the periodic table absorbs light at a specific frequency. It's a chemical fingerprint. If 3I Atlas were a comet from the Oort cloud, Webb should have seen the massive, screaming signature of hydroxyl, OH. Hydroxyl comes from water. Comets are made of water ice. When sunlight hits them, the water breaks down and you get a massive spike in the OH frequency. But Webb didn't find hydroxyl. The water signature was remarkably faint, less than 5% of the total composition. Instead, the spectrograph picked up anomalous carbon chains. Specifically, it found complex tholins, a tar-like organic sludge that is created when simple hydrocarbons are bombarded by cosmic radiation for millions of years. 3I Atlas isn't an ice ball, it's a coated object. The surface appears to be covered in a baked, dark, organic shield. This explains why it didn't disintegrate at perihelion. A normal comet would have cracked under the thermal stress. But if this object has a heat-resistant crust or hull, it could survive a close pass to the sun without shedding mass. But the most disturbing data point isn't the carbon. It's the albedo. Albedo is a measure of reflectivity. Fresh snow has an albedo of 0.9. Charcoal has an albedo of 0.04. Most asteroids are dark gray. Atlas has a variable albedo. During its approach, it was reflective. Now that it is leaving, it has darkened. Some researchers at the European Space Agency, ESA, have quietly proposed that this could be consistent with active thermal control like louvers on a spacecraft opening and closing to regulate internal temperature. The official narrative that this is just a dry, weird rock was holding together. Barely. A scientific alert was triggered across the Deep Space Network, DSN. The DSN is the massive array of radio dishes in California, Spain, and Australia that we use to talk to Voyager and the Mars rovers. At 1400 UTC, the Goldstone dish in California detected an unusual emission from the coordinates of 3I Atlas. It wasn't the broad static hiss of a natural radio source like Jupiter's storms. It was a narrowband spike. The signal was concentrated at a specific frequency range. For exactly 47 minutes, the signal pulsed, and then it cut off. NASA's Escritorio team mobilized. Telescopes in Chile and Australia swung to intercept. By the time they locked on, the signal was gone. They later issued a preliminary classification, natural origin. They suggested it was likely a maser, microwave amplification by stimulated emission of radiation, a rare natural phenomenon where sunlight triggers a burst of microwave energy from gas pockets. But look at the timing. The signal didn't happen when the object was closest to Earth. It didn't happen when the object was closest to the sun, where the energy would be highest. It happened exactly as the object crossed the orbital path of Mars. It waited until it was clear of the inner solar system's interference. It waited until it had a clear line of sight to the outer system. And then it chirped. If this was a data dump, a burst transmission of the telemetry it collected while scanning Earth, it would look exactly like a maser to our primitive equipment. A short, high-energy burst of noise. And now, we see the aftermath. In December 2025, 3I Atlas was magnitude 9. You could see it with a good pair of backyard binoculars. We were told it would stay active and visible through March. But look at the light curve for February. It has dropped to magnitude 13. In astronomical terms, that is a cliff. It is now 100 times fainter than it was just 8 weeks ago. To a geologist, this means the outgassing events have stopped. The comet has run out of fuel. To a strategist, it looks like something else entirely. It looks like a power down. The object entered the system. It woke up. It deployed its solar-facing collector, the anti-tail. It stabilized its orbit with the 120-degree thrusters. It scanned the inner planets. And now that the mission is complete, it is going dark. It is reducing its signature. It is engaging stealth mode as it cruises back into the void. Notice what isn't happening anymore. In November, we had live streams. We had press releases from ESA. We had the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter taking photos. Now, the updates have trickled to a stop. The TESS video was released quietly, buried in an archive server. The mini-jet anomaly paper was published on a preprint server, not a front-page headline. The silence suggests the authorities think the show is over. They think 3I Atlas is just a dead rock drifting into the black. But they are forgetting one final date. There is one chapter of this story left to write, and it is the one everyone is ignoring. On March 16th, 2026, 3I Atlas will pass near the Hill radius of Jupiter. It will be within 53 million kilometers of the gas giant. In cosmic terms, that is a near miss. And waiting there is NASA's Juno spacecraft. Juno has been orbiting Jupiter since 2016. It is nearing the end of its life, but its sensors are still fully operational. Juno has optical cameras, JunoCam. It has particle detectors. It has magnetometer sensors designed to measure the most powerful magnetic fields in the solar system. If 3i Atlas is going to reactivate, if it is going to use Jupiter's massive gravity well for a slingshot maneuver to gain speed for its exit, or if it is going to transmit its data to a receiver or relay in the outer system, it will happen then. We have exactly 1 month left of observation before the distance becomes too great. We need to stop asking if it is artificial. We need to start asking what it was doing. Let's profile the behavior, origin. It came from the direction of Sagittarius, the galactic center, and the source of the 1977 WOW signal, navigation. It used non-gravitational acceleration to correct its course, ensuring it passed on the ecliptic plane. Orientation. It pointed a tail structure at the sun while moving away from it. Stealth. It went silent, magnitude drop the moment it left the habitable zone. This fits the profile of a courier. A courier doesn't want to talk to us. It doesn't want to land on the White House lawn and ask for our leader. It wants to map the hazards. It checked our orbital capabilities. It checked the solar wind density. It checked the planetary alignments. And now, it is taking that data home. The skeptics scream. If it were aliens, they would have said hello. They would have broadcasted a sequence of prime numbers. That is human arrogance. That is assuming we are important enough to be greeted. When you walk past an anthill in the forest, you don't kneel down and introduce yourself to the queen ant. You step over it. Or, if you are a surveyor, you map it for later removal. 3i Atlas didn't slow down. It didn't stop. It treated Earth like a waypoint. And that is infinitely more terrifying than an invasion fleet. An invasion fleet acknowledges you as a threat. 3i Atlas acknowledged us as background noise. We are now in the final countdown. After the March 16 flyby of Jupiter, the object will become too faint for anything but the largest observatories on Earth. Like the VLT in Chile, it will vanish into the Oort cloud, and we will never see it again. But the data it collected remains. Did it upload that data during the radio spike on February 3rd? Or is it carrying a physical hard drive back to wherever it came from? We might never know. But we have one last chance to catch it in the act. I want you to keep your eyes on the Juno mission updates in March. Watch for glitches. Watch for sensor anomalies around Jupiter. Watch for reports of unexpected magnetic interference. If Juno starts seeing things it shouldn't see in March, then we will know for sure. This wasn't a comet. It was a scout, and scouts usually precede the main force. I want to know your theory in the comments below. Look at the evidence. The 120-degree jets, the anti-tail, the radio spike. Is nature just playing a 1 in a billion trick on us? Or did we just watch a machine complete its mission and go home? Tell me what you think, and make sure you are subscribed, because if Juno sees something in March, this channel will be the first to break the news.